States.
Hello, my name is Frederick Auguste Bartholdi. Perhaps you know my work better. I am the Frenchman who created the Statue of Liberty, a marvelous sculpture, if I must say so myself. But do you know why I created her? I created her because America and all that it stood for had captured my imagination. And I was not alone. America had become the land of opportunity and hope to many people from around the world.
Before Columbus, or any of the colonists and settlers that came after him, ever set foot in America, it was home to the Native Americans. Anyone that has moved here since then is called an immigrant. An immigrant is someone who leaves one country in order to make a new home in another. Since the first settlement at the Jamestown colony in 1607, more than 45 million people have immigrated to the United States. Even though it was often dangerous, people have crossed every continent and every ocean to make the United States their home. But why did so many people decide to come to the United States? Most immigrants chose to become Americans because they wanted a better life for themselves and their families. Around 200 years ago, cities in Europe began to get crowded as more and more people were born. Many believed that they could find better jobs and make more money in the United States. America was growing rapidly, and people were needed to help build houses, make roads, and to grow food. Other immigrants came to the United States to escape problems in their own countries. In the 1840s, a disease killed the potato crop in Ireland. This left many Irish farmers with no food and forced them to leave their homes. In some countries, people were punished simply because of their religion. Like the Pilgrims before them, these people came to the United States so they could safely practice their religious faith. Many more people immigrated to the United States to escape unfair governments. Some immigrants decided to settle near the place where they entered the United States. Many Chinese immigrants, for instance, arrived in San Francisco and settled there in a neighborhood called Chinatown. Others traveled far to areas where people from their native country had settled, or where they could find land. Many German immigrants traveled to the Midwest to take up farming. Often, the newly arrived immigrants were treated badly by Americans already living here. They were afraid the immigrants would take their jobs away by working for less money. Immigrants have had to face discrimination in many areas of life, including work, education, and housing. At first, the United States had an open door policy. That meant anyone who wanted to move to the United States could do so. In 1882, that policy changed as the United States government passed laws limiting immigration. Today, the United States government continues to control who is allowed to immigrate to the United States and who is not. In spite of the hardships, most immigrants have been able to make new lives for themselves and their families in the United States. Their hard work has proven again and again that the United States of America is truly the nation of immigration, or, as Walt Whitman said, a nation of nations. What have we learned about immigration? An immigrant is someone who leaves one country in order to make a new home in another. More than 45 million people have immigrated to the United States since the 1600s. Most immigrants come to the United States in search of a better life for themselves and their families. Talk to a family member about your nationality. Make a timeline showing your family's history in America. My new home in America.
Can you imagine what it must have been like to be a very young person crossing the Atlantic Ocean for the first time? Do you think it was exciting? Maybe even fun? Well, it might have seemed that way boarding the ship, but as our young friend from Poland will share with us, the journey would test the courage and strength of many people, for it was long and difficult.
Dear Diary, I am going to America. I shall write down everything that happens to me, so my children and grandchildren can remember this wonderful time. It didn't start so wonderful. I had to leave Whiskers behind in Poland with my cousin. Mama said there was no room on the ship for a cat. And I had to walk all the way from our farm near Krakow to the port at Gdansk. More than 300 miles. My aching feet. But today we boarded the ship that will take us across the Atlantic to America. Oh, thank you, Father, for sending us the money to join you in Pennsylvania. I kiss your picture every day. Dear Diary, I am seasick. It worries me because I hear that the doctors examine you in America, and if you are sick, they send you back. There are over 1,000 immigrants crowded into steerage, which is the bottom of the ship where they usually carry cargo. We sleep on bunk beds with mattresses made of seaweed, and my life preserver is also my pillow. It's hard to breathe down here at night, and there are no windows. But when I get scared and lonely, I read Father's letters again. He says, in America, you can be anything you want to be, and no one ever goes to bed hungry. Is it possible? Dear Diary, today I saw the Statue of Liberty. We rushed to the side of the ship shouting, there she is, the Lady of the Harbor. Many people have been greeted by her from all over the world, all with the same dream, a new life in America. But first we had to pass through Ellis Island. The immigration doctors examined me and my mom, and we passed. Then they questioned us. Name, place of birth, destination, how much money do you have? The questions came so fast. But Mama showed them our money, and we were allowed to pass. We made it to America. Dear Diary, today Father came for us. How he hugged me. He showed us our new home, and he had a special surprise for me. A new kitty. I've named her Liberty. Diary, I am happy to be home in America.
The Statue of Liberty and Ellis Island.
I named my famous statue Liberty Enlightening the World. You know it, of course, as the Statue of Liberty. I named her that because the torch she carries, to me, is a symbol of liberty itself, shining a bright path for those who chose to leave their old lives behind and make new ones for themselves. In America, the land of the free.
The Statue of Liberty has stood boldly at the entrance of New York Harbor for over 100 years. In her right hand, she holds a torch high above her head, a welcoming light to all travelers. In her left hand, she holds a tablet inscribed with the date July 4th, 1776. That is the day the United States declared its independence from Great Britain. In 1865, a Frenchman named Edouard de la Volée suggested at a dinner party that France and the United States build a monument to celebrate France's help during the American Revolution. Frederic Bartholdi, another guest at the party, thought that was a great idea. Bartholdi was a famous sculptor. He traveled to the United States to speak with people about the monument. As his ship approached New York Harbor, Bartholdi noticed a small island called Bellows Island. He immediately realized this would be the perfect place for a statue welcoming immigrants and visitors to the United States. Bartholdi traveled all over the country telling people of his ideas for the monument. He returned to France and began to make a small 9-foot model of the monument. Alexandre Eiffel, who created France's famous Eiffel Tower, helped Bartholdi. Bartholdi's studio was not large enough to build the full-size statue, so he and Eiffel built the statue in sections and put her together outside. They created a special iron skeleton, then attached copper plates to it. People from all over France, including schoolchildren, contributed a lot of money to help build the monument. In a few years, it was finished. She stood 151 feet tall and weighed 225 tons. Bartholdi named the statue Liberty Enlightening the World, but soon everyone started calling her the Statue of Liberty. Bartholdi took the Statue of Liberty apart, packed it in 214 crates, and sent it to the United States. Unfortunately, when Liberty arrived in the United States, there was not enough money to put her back together again. Joseph Pulitzer used his newspaper, The World, to convince people to donate money for the Statue of Liberty. Soon, he raised enough to put her back together. On October 28, 1886, the Statue of Liberty was dedicated. Immigrants and visitors arriving in New York Harbor were greeted by the Statue of Liberty. It soon became a proud symbol of the freedom and opportunity that our country offered. Near the Statue of Liberty in New York Harbor is another small island, Ellis Island. Before some immigrants were allowed to set foot on American soil, they had to be inspected by doctors and the U.S. government officials on Ellis Island. Immigrants who were too sick or too weak were sometimes not allowed to enter the United States and had to return home. Between 1890 and 1930, more than 12 million immigrants passed through the Great Hall at Ellis Island and were allowed to immigrate into America. Today, the Statue of Liberty and the buildings of Ellis Island are national monuments. In 1883, Emma Lazarus wrote a poem about the Statue of Liberty. It is engraved on the pedestal or base of the statue. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, the tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. Let's review. The Statue of Liberty was sculpted by Frederic Bartholdi over 100 years ago. It was a gift from France to the United States. In her right hand, she holds a torch. In her left hand, she holds a tablet inscribed with the date July 4th, 1776, Independence Day. Between 1890 and 1930, more than 12 million immigrants passed through the Great Hall at Ellis Island. Draw a picture of the statue you would make to greet visitors and immigrants to the U.S. I came all the way from China.